Doom 2016 was one of my most anticipated games when it was announced. It had been such a long time since we had had a new Doom game at that point that I'm sure a lot of people were both excited and cautious about what was, at the time, the latest entry. When the game came out, it blew me away with the gunplay, the music, the aesthetic, and the surprising amount of lore it had. I remember when I finally beat the Spider Mastermind at the end of the game and watched the final cutscene, I was left sitting there with what I think is probably the best feeling a game can give you. You immediately want to dive into it again. So I did, on a higher difficulty. I love the game so much that when I finally saved up to get a gaming PC, I bought Doom 2016 full price for a second time. But the urge for more, it never left, and then Doom Eternal was announced. I'm probably not alone in saying this, but Doom Eternal was one of my most anticipated games. And 5 years later, yeah, it's already been 5 years, can you believe it? We have another Doom game coming out. By the time this video goes live, it will most likely already be out, and will probably sell extremely well, because it's Doom. So today, we're going to talk about Doom Eternal, mostly because I don't plan on getting Doom the Dark Ages at launch because of the $70 price tag, and I'll just wait for a sale to save some money. But the game plan is to do a retrospective on Doom Eternal and then work my way back through the series to the original, and then at some point when Doom the Dark Ages is discounted, circle back and do a video like this about that. But let's get into Doom Eternal.
Against all the evil that hell can conjure, all the wickedness that mankind can produce, we will send unto them only you. Rip and tear until it is done.
So I remember when I first booted up this game, I remember really loving the intro, and 5 years later, that hasn't changed at all. Seeing Earth being invaded and hearing people panicking and crying out for help, and then seeing the Doomslayer gearing up on his giant space station called the Fortress of Doom, that got me hyped to play it, although I was a little bit confused where this fortress came from, but I figured they would just explain that later. At this point, I was just more eager to go shoot some demons and save Earth from hell again. I've lost count of how many times this has happened now. Though, one thing became apparent right away, and that's just how gorgeous this game is. I love how much brighter and vibrant the colors are when you compare it to Doom 2016. And the best way I can describe the art direction in Doom Eternal is it feels like you're playing through a bunch of metal album covers, and I love that. That dark vibe that 2016 had, it's there, but it's not as prevalent. The game is clearly trying to have more fun with it. And the visuals also extend to the gameplay. When you're ripping a demon apart with your weapons, you'll quickly notice that the demons actually have battle damage. You'll see flesh getting stripped away to the point where you can see bones and other just damage. And the only word I can think of to describe it is satisfying. I love seeing my enemies actually show visible damage from the pain I inflict on them. I'm not a psychopath, I swear. This also has gameplay benefits, but I'm going to talk about that later. The other thing that immediately stood out to me was the soundtrack. Now, the music Mick Gordon did for 2016 was beautiful, and I don't think the game will be the same without it. And unfortunately, now we know what a game without Mick Gordon's soundtrack is like. But when it came to Eternal's soundtrack, I think he outdid himself. The idea to have a metal vocal choir for a lot of the tracks in this game was such an out there idea that I don't think I've ever heard it done in another game before or since. But if you have heard it done in another game, can you let me know in the comments? Because I want to hear that. Or play that game if the game looks interesting. But the music Mick did for these games inspired its own subgenre of metal called Argent Metal. It's mostly, I don't think it's ever hit like mainstream stuff, it's mostly like internet people, but still. It's cool that people are making their own like Doom-inspired music and trying to make it a thing, and I think it's awesome. And you can hear Mick's influence in metal music that gets released in like iTunes and stuff even now. There's this one group I like called Brand of Sacrifice. Yes, their name is a Berserk reference. They have a song called Purge, and there are several bits in there that feel straight out of Doom. Look it up if you don't believe me, because obviously I can't play it here, because I ain't trying to get a copyright claim. But back to the actual game, though. It runs really well. I recently upgraded my computer, and now I can run most games either at 4K or 2K at max to higher mid settings, depending on the game. Some of the newer games give me a hard time with that. But Doom Eternal runs smoother than butter. And that's with the game defaulting to having ray tracing on. And even with that, I was still getting a really good frame rate. I turned the ray tracing off when I realized it was on because I barely noticed it. And it doesn't really add that much for me. But the fact that it didn't completely tank my frame rate while I had everything maxed out, that's pretty impressive. With a 3080, I didn't have any crashes or any stuttering, or at least none that I noticed, even with Streamlabs recording everything. So there's some optimization wizardry or black magic going on here to get this thing to run like that. So whichever department handles the optimization, they're goated, as far as I'm concerned. It's really impressive, actually, compared to some other games now that run like absolute crap, even with decent hardware, unless I turn on DLSS. Or, well, my card doesn't have frame gen, but people with other cards have to use their frame gen to get a stable frame rate. I'm looking at you, Monster Hunter Wild. You're insanely fun, but man, the PC performance is horrible. Especially at launch, it was, oh boy. You know what? If I'm gonna call out games for having really bad performance despite actually being fun, I'm gonna throw Stalker 2 in the mix too. Because, oh boy, that game is murder on my PC, even with DLSS on. But back to Doom. The other thing I noticed was how much faster the game feels. It feels like you die much quicker in Eternal than in 2016, but that paled in comparison to the other odd thing I noticed at the start. You have very little ammo, especially at the very beginning of the game. I would fire my shotgun a handful of times and be completely out. And it felt off, like I was missing something. And it turns out I was, because I didn't understand what they changed with the chainsaw. Which segues perfectly into talking about the combat, because if you thought this was just 2016 again, but with cooler visuals and some new enemies, you'd be dead wrong. Because the combat has undergone some major changes since the previous game. Sorry to interrupt the video for a second, but I need to talk to you about something. So, in addition to running a YouTube channel, I'm also an author with 3 books out at the time of making this. And it would really mean a lot if you guys check them out on Amazon. Currently, I have the Renegade series, which has 2 books in it with a 3rd one in the works. It's a sci-fi action adventure story in the spirit of 90s cartoons and comics. The series follows a team of heroes, each with their own unique abilities, one of them being a sword-wielding, water-bending alien named Ronin. This group, called the Renegades, protect their world from all sorts of threats. The second book, Blackout, has a team following a lead on their arch nemesis, and they end up in their universe's version of Japan. The team find themselves in the crosshairs of a dangerous group of mercenaries and the shadowy group that hired them. As things escalate between them, the mercenaries, and the ones pulling their strings, the entire fate of the island hangs in the balance, as it is plunged into darkness and held hostage with the aid of a powerful weapon called Blackout. If you're looking for something less serious and more whimsical, consider checking out Tales of the Edgeworlds Volume 1. It's a collection of 4 zany, off-the-wall comedy stories set in a broken multiverse, and features characters such as a violent, short-tempered, foul-mouthed, gun-toting space penguin named Edgy, and his crew of oddballs getting into crazy hijinks, involving mutants, space mafias, and vampires that are also from space. It also includes a story about a dorky, clumsy combat android named Mika 227 that tangles with a feared space pirate captain to save some miners. It also recently got an audiobook, which only amplifies the hilarity in these stories, and it really makes the characters jump off the page with the over-the-top voices that the narrator does. The link to my Amazon page for all 3 books will be in the description and in the pinned comment. Back to the video. Yeah, the combat is mostly what you're here for, isn't it? I think the best way to talk about the combat is to cover the basic, which is pretty similar to what we had in 2016. You have health, you have armor that reduces damage you take, but degrades with each hit. You have an arsenal of weapons on you at all times. There's no 2-weapon limit like you'd have in Halo or COD or something. And you've got finishers in the form of glory kills that you can perform on demons to regain your health, and they're just appropriately brutal and awesome to watch. Seriously, I never tire of some of these. And you may notice there's a new little feature with them that's not in 2016. The Doomslayer decided to upgrade his suit with a wrist blade and now uses it in glory kills to just make them more brutal, and because it just looks cool. Unfortunately though, you can't use the arm blade for your basic melee attacks, which to be fair, outside of using the blood punchers, I'll talk about that later, you're not going to be using your basic melee aside from that or initiating glory kills because it kind of sucks. When I look at the redesigned armor and the launcher you get later on in combination with the blade, I'm convinced his new equipment and look was inspired by the Predator. And if so, that's awesome, because who doesn't love the Predator? The character, not the movie named The Predator. The movie is such a mess that I kind of wish I could forget it exists. It's just that bad. It's the kind of movie where if you explained it to someone who hasn't seen it, they would think you were making it up on the spot and just being ridiculous, but it's 100% real, unfortunately. Okay, tangent aside. You still have weapon mods that you can swap on the fly to add secondary functions to most of your weapons. I'll go into more detail about that later. But for now, the basic mechanics are pretty much the same, although the weapon mods themselves behave very differently in some cases. So what else is different? First of all, you start with less armor and less health, which I thought was weird because Doom, I'm pretty sure every Doom game starts you off with having a max health of 100. Although you can get more in the old games if you got certain items. You could get more than 100, but that was like your default max. But this game, nah, you don't start with that. Another major change is they added more platforming to this game. No, I'm not kidding. You can now cling to certain walls and climb them. You can swing from poles in the environment like a gymnast, or a kid hyped up on Mountain Dew at the monkey bars. And you have air dashes now. I remember when I first saw this in trailers, it left me scratching my head. I was like, you expanded the platforming that was in 2016, which really wasn't like that much? Huh, that's a little weird, odd decision. But you know what, after playing it, it works. It plays into how much faster the game is overall, and how much you're encouraged to stay on the move while attacking. Vaulting into the air and firing rockets into enemies stuck on the ground is never not fun to me. Plus, the platforming gives you a nice little break in between the heavy combat section. And the platforming never gets frustrating or really all that challenging. It's pretty straightforward, and I never felt like it overstayed its welcome. And another thing that I like is that it's incorporated into finding secrets, but again, it never becomes frustrating. At least, not to me anyway. But those aren't the only big differences you have. The chainsaw now is a little bit different, and you get it from basically the start of the game. And it also is the answer to why your ammo count is way lower, especially when you just start the game, before you have any upgrades. Like, look at how many shots I get off with the shotgun right here. That's not a lot, and it looks like it would be a problem, right? Well, as I said earlier, that's where the chainsaw comes in. In 2016, the chainsaw was a power weapon that rewarded you with a ton of pickups from whatever demon you used it on, but it had limited fuel, and if you wanted to kill a larger demon with it, you needed more fuel for that. Think of it as a single targeting, get out of jail free card type deal. In Eternal, however, you don't use it that way. You see, unlike most shooter games, you're not at the mercy of RNGs for ammo drop. Hugo and the boys at id gave you direct control over when enemies drop things and what they drop depending on what tool you use. And the chainsaw is used to get your ammo back. Fuel now regenerates, however you only get one tier of it that'll regenerate, and if you want to use it on a larger demon, you're going to need to find more fuel canisters around the map. You'll be using the chainsaw mostly on fodder demons. These are the soldiers, the imps, and the zombies and their variants. And you will be using the chainsaw constantly, and when the game clicks and you understand how it works, you sort of get into this rhythm of attacking and then switching to the chainsaw with a button press when your ammo starts to run out. Once you understand the system, the low ammo thing becomes less of an issue. And I'm pretty sure they also gave the weapons low ammo capacities to make you switch weapons more, instead of just, for example, overly relying on the shotgun, which I am 100% guilty of doing in most Doom games. What can I say? I love shotguns. That's not the only resource drop that you control directly though. You know how in 2016 you use glory kills to get health back in the middle of combat? Along with health pickups that were already spawned on the map, you'll be relying on glory kills in this game a lot more for health. And you also have this other tool called the Flame Belch, which is a shoulder mounted flamethrower that makes enemies drop armor pickups every second while they're on fire. So you get into the cycle of chainsaw for ammo, glory kills for health, flame belt for armor. You also can mix it up with the ice bombs you get later. They do exactly what you think they do, and they let you freeze enemies in place, and you can get an upgrade for your suit later on that makes enemies drop health as you damage them while frozen. And yes, you can combo the flame belch and the ice bombs together to make enemies drop armor and health. On top of the ice bomb, you have grenades, and I mean, they're grenades, like they don't really do anything super special. And I kind of forget they're there most of the time when playing. Another upgrade you get is the Blood Punch, and this charges up with glory kills on larger demons and gives you a super powered melee attack that has a shockwave that hits multiple enemies and does a ridiculous amount of damage. It's a really fun ability, and you can use it to punch off the armor of the Cybermancubus enemy in one hit. But I'm going to hold off talking about the guns until you actually obtain them, just to not bog the start of this video down with another 20 minutes of me talking about weapons and nothing else. So let's talk about the levels.
It is written. It is their time to give penance. If you continue, you will bring down the heavens' wrath. You are but one man. They are no longer your people to save.
So the first level starts with Hell on Earth, much like Doom 2, except we start by kicking the door in on a Hell Barge and killing a Hell Priest named Deeg Nylox. He's one of the three whose souls are tied to the demonic invasion, and to stop Hell from consuming Earth, they all have to die. Something the Doomslayer is more than willing to oblige. Hey, spoiler alert here, he has a history with them, and it's not pretty. We start off with the shotgun. There's no pistol this time. Okay, well there was one, but it was cut, and you can actually use it on PC via some console command, but since it's not intended to be used, I'm not going to talk about it here. Although, I really do like the way it looks, and I kind of wish a version of it made it into one of the DLCs, but let's just talk about the shotgun for now. If there's one thing that goes hand in hand with demon killing in Doom, it's a damn good shotgun. The shotgun here has gone through a bit of a redesign, and so have its mods. The base form with no mods feels like the 2016 shotgun, but with a different sound. I like this sound a lot more than the one from the last game, although the one in 2016 was pretty good, but I just like this one better. But once you start getting the mods, that's when the shotgun becomes a little different. Like in 2016, you can choose which mod you want when you get one. For the shotgun, you have your choice between the full auto mod or the sticky bomb mod. The sticky bomb has a lot of utility, as you can use it to do something very useful. Remember how I said demons have battle damage in this game? It's not just for show. For example, the Arachnotron has a turret. You can blast that off and take away one of its methods of attacking you. Guess what's one of the easiest ways to do that? The sticky bomb. Fire one of these on the turret and wait 2 seconds and it's gone. Also, if you fire one into a Cacademon's mouth, you give it the meanest case of heartburn and it becomes stunned and put in a glory kill state, regardless of how much health it has. You can also do this with normal grenades, but I just find it easier to do with the sticky bomb. For other uses, I mean, it's a sticky bomb. It's pretty obvious what you use it for. Fire this into a bunch of demons and just watch them all take damage. So that just leaves the full auto mod. It does exactly what you think it does. If you hold down the button and fire, the shotgun becomes full auto at the cost of slower movement. Visually, and just mechanically, I like this much better than a 3-shot burst we got in 2016. And coupled with the battle damage, it's really satisfying to use. Overall, the shotgun's enjoyable as it should be. It's a Doom game shotgun. Be kind of concerning if it was bad. But going back to the level, this one has you fight across Earth mid-invasion, and some of the visuals here are gorgeous.
Priest has been terminated. The demonic consumption of Earth has been reduced by 36.8%. There are 2 Hell Priests remaining.
You'll encounter some classics like the zombies, the imps, soldier zombies, cacodemons, and arachnotrons in this level. The imps and zombies, they fall into a category of fodder demons. Fodder demons are basically resource packs that can fight back. They can damage you, and if you are low on health or there's a bunch of them on you, they can be a threat, but chances are you're not going to have too much trouble with them. Like I said, you're supposed to use them for resource generation by using the chainsaw or getting a glory kill on them to get your health back, or using the flame belch, which we don't have yet to make them drop armor shards. The Arachnotron is a new enemy to the Doomslayer era of games. It can fire grenades and it can use a turret on its back to damage you. It can also melee you if you get too close to it. Overall, pretty fun addition to the roster, and it's cool to have them back, since they haven't been in a Doom game in a while actually. The Cackle Demon is pretty much the same as it was in the last game, although it had a slight visual change. But later on, you get the next weapon in the arsenal, the Heavy Cannon. The Heavy Cannon fulfills the same role as the Assault Rifle from 2016, but it has a way different design, a lower rate of fire, and a different sound effect. And I'm not the biggest fan of how it sounds. I don't know, I'm not a sound design person, but I just wish it had more oomph to it, you know? I do like the way it looks though. The guns and mods are actually not that different from what they were in 2016. The scope from 2016 returns, but now it's called the Precision Bolt, and it turns your gun into a sniper rifle. It has an even lower rate of fire, but the shot does way more damage, and I love the thunderous crackle it has when you break an enemy weak point. It's just satisfying to hear. Like the Sticky Bomb, it's good for destroying enemy weak spots. Also returning from 2016 is the Micro Missile, and initially I found myself not using it that much, and for the longest time I didn't think it was that good. But in a recent playthrough, I used it more, and when you unlock its mastery upgrade, it becomes really useful, and I realized I've just slept on this thing. And the main reason why I did is because until you get the max upgrade for it, the missiles themselves have a limited ammo capacity, and they run out very quickly, and you have to wait for it to reload, which kind of sucks. Also, it's a bit of an ammo drain, especially in early game when you don't have your upgraded ammo capacity. It was a bit of a hard sell, but I realize now that I definitely slept on it. But overall, I'd say the weapon is fun to use. In addition to getting these two weapons, you get some mods to play around with, and you get familiar with the traversal. This ultimately ends with you ascending a giant hell tower thing and confronting the other two hell priests.
The Con Maker is present at this gathering, but when outside of her domain, she is by all accounts indestructible.
How can this be? No man can pass through the gate. This stops nothing. The sacrament of this world to the great Khan Maker will be made, and the energy will be restored once again. As it is written, from the souls of the non-believers, you will not save them from their judgment.
Well, that was a bit short, wasn't it?
You go too far this time. You cannot interfere. This is humanity's chance to repent, to give service to us. You cannot resist the will of the Khan Maker.
Activating the portal now.
For it was you who was meant to enforce it.
No, of course it's not that easy. The Khan Maker, the leader of URDAK, I am throwing a lot of new terms at you, but that's exactly what the game does. But going back to the Khan Maker, she teleports them out of there before you can slay them. Vega, the AI from 2016 that you made a backup of before you had to overload his core to get back into hell at the end of that game, tells you that outside of her realm of URDAK, she's indestructible, which is really weird when you think about it, because wouldn't someone be much stronger in their own realm that they have power over? I don't think that's ever explained anywhere in the game. Maybe it's in one of the codex entries and I just missed it. But the Khan Maker, how do I put this? The Khan Maker is kind of a stupid villain. Her motivation does make sense. She needs the energy from the souls of those who were killed and tortured in hell to make something called Argent Energy that her realm URDAK, which is Doom Eternal's equivalent of heaven, runs on. So she has motive to stop you from allowing hell to absorb Earth. It's just the method in which she tries to stop you that makes her kind of stupid. So she hides a priest from you and then tells you that you can't do this, but she doesn't take any further action to stop you. But more on the con maker and her questionable decisions later. Overall, this is a fine introduction. After this, you go back to the Doomslayer's home base, the Fortress of Doom, where you can use these items that you collect called Sentinel batteries to unlock different rooms in the fortress that have upgrades for you. But Vega tells you that they can't locate the second Hell Priest, and our Celestial Locator, yeah, that's what they call it, is broken, and we need to get a new one, and the only way we can get it is by going to a place called EXULTIA. You see what I mean by them dumping a lot of terms on you? But let's get into EXULTIA. EXULTIA is an abandoned, ruined city on another world that belongs to the Night Sentinels, a group that the Doomslayer used to be a part of. We go here to do some platforming to get the Blood Punch ability, and we encounter a new demon called the Gargoyle, which they're basically an imp, but they have wrist blades and they can fly temporarily. The Hell Knight also makes a return, and he's undergone some slight appearance changes. They gave him eyes this time, but overall he's still very similar to the 2016 version. Again, just with the saturation cranked up. And he fights similar to that version too, where he'll just bum rush you and try to clobber you, and he does not give a damn about self-preservation. I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Eventually we make our way to a throne room that really feels like it would fit into Warhammer 40k, or would be on a power metal album cover. But when we get there, we're confronted by the spirit of a character named King Novik. Side note, Throne of EXULTIA does sound like a badass name for a power metal band. If anybody ends up using that, you're welcome. Surprisingly enough, Doomslayer actually respects King Novik and kneels. Novik tells us we're not allowed to defy URDAK and the Con Maker, and that humans aren't our people to save anymore, and Doomslayer gives him a look that's basically saying, dude, don't go there. Like, you crossed the line with that one. But that's pretty much where this cutscene ends. And Novik doesn't have any other appearances, but you hear his voice at the start of the game, and at the end of the game, and I kind of wonder if maybe he was supposed to have a bigger role at some point. But we now have the locator repaired, but it's out of juice. Good news is we know how to take care of that problem. We head through a portal, and at this point you would think the level would be over, but that was only the first half. We end up going through this more hellish looking area to reach a character named the Betrayer. He was mentioned in the Codex in Doom 2016, and I'll just give the cliff notes. He was part of the Sentinels, and he double-crossed everybody, hence the name Betrayer, because the demons promised to revive his dead son if he sold us out. And it turns out when he did this, the demons, they took the son's heart and turned him into the icon of sin. Yeah, shocker, making a deal with a demon doesn't end well, and you end up getting screwed over. Who could have seen that coming, am I right? But yeah, the Betrayer's son is the icon of sin. But let me back up a bit, because while we're here, we also get the brand new redesigned plasma rifle, which, classic Doom fans, I'm sure this looks very familiar to you. Now, as to why there's a random UAC plasma rifle here, I have no idea. But look, I ain't gonna complain, because the plasma rifle is really fun to use. The plasma rifle is still a fast-firing, just damage machine, and it's great for wearing down enemies. And I'm trying to think, has there ever been a Doom game where I disliked the plasma rifle? I don't think so. The only gripe I have with the plasma rifle is one of its mods, the microwave beam. Oh boy, the microwave beam. So what this thing does is it fires a beam that targets whatever enemy you've locked onto while it's charging up. It then holds that enemy in place while firing the beam, and it gradually damages the enemy until you either run out of ammo, which is the more likely option, or it kills the enemy and makes them explode, which damages other enemies that are standing nearby. Here's the problem though. You have to stay close to the enemy that you're using it on, and you can't be as agile while you're using it, which is a problem because this game discourages you just sitting in one place and camping. You have to keep moving to stay alive. And this mod kind of flies in the face of that, in my opinion. And a lot of times I feel like if I were to use it, I'm either going to eat a lot of damage or I'm going to get killed. The Mastery upgrade does try to make it a little bit better, as it creates a concussive blast that stuns anything caught in it. The radius of the blast scales up depending on the class of demon you kill, so the larger the demon, the bigger the blast. Besides the movement penalty and just how that seems to clash with the philosophy of the game to me, it also takes a painfully long time to kill any of the bigger demons with it. On top of that, it's an ammo drain. And that's an issue because the plasma rifle, unsurprisingly, takes plasma ammo, which is also shared with the ballista. which is one of the strongest weapons in the game. It just feels that it's always more efficient to use the base fire or the other mod. There is one exception, but that's not until the DLC, so I'll bring it up then. But the good news is, the plasma rifle's second upgrade, the Heat Blast mod, is leagues better. The way it works is, as you fire, the rifle builds up heat, and when the bars on the side of the aiming cursor fill up enough, you can press the alt fire sound, a blast of energy. It gets even better when you unlock its mastery upgrade, because what it does then is, the weapon gains a damage boost and a rate of fire boost for a few seconds, and your shots turn bright red and have a much more powerful sound effect to it. This thing shreds and I love it, and it's easy to build up the heat too. You don't even have to hit an enemy with it if you don't want to. The other good function that the plasma rifle has is, if you shoot an energy shield with it, you can make it overload and explode, and it'll damage anything nearby. Which is great for the shield zombies and another demon that we haven't met yet called the Carcass. But going back to the level, we also end up running into the Revenant again. And he pretty much fights the same with his jetpack and rocket spam. But as we go through this area, we end up seeing some pretty cool visuals, including a giant multi-staged gate that's just here for some reason. And we also see what clearly is evidence of Sentinel mechs fighting giant demons. And they're just kind of locked in combat. I say locked, but they're both dead, but I should say locked in combat poses. And you have to climb one of these mechs and use these battery things to power up different pieces of different mechs to unlock the path forward, including activating a spear weapon that punches a hole in a demon's guts so you can walk through them to progress the level. There is just one small gripe I have with this level, because this is where the devs introduce a particular hazard that I absolutely despise. The slime. The slime doesn't damage you, thankfully, because that would make it even more unbearable, but it slows your movement to a crawl. Even dashing barely gets you anywhere. And you're unable to jump too. The game also likes to spawn these tentacle enemies here that just pop out of holes in the ground. They're easy to kill, but they are just annoying when you combine them with a slime. I just hate it. I hate feeling like I'm just being slowed down. I want to go fast. But tangent aside, like I said, this area is a looker. But eventually, we do meet the Betrayer, he fixes the locator, and he kind of just repeats the same thing Nobik just told us. And then he tosses us a knife and mentions that when his son's soul is at rest, so will he. He's referring to his son, who's the icon of Sen, but that's going to come up way later. But after that, you fight some more battles, and then we're back to the fortress. Now we can find the second Hell Priest. He's in a UAC facility in the North Pole, and he's got a lot of UAC cultists that are just glazing him. We should probably take care of that before Earth is consumed. Again, another really visually awesome level, and I like how it contrasts the reds that we got in the second part of the last level. But here we're introduced to another demon. This one is completely brand new, called the Whiplash. And they're kind of annoying, because they slither around like snakes, and they can dodge your attacks, and they can just be really hard to hit. They also have retractable whips that they will lash you with. I'm wondering where they got the name from. They also like to come in groups. This is probably the best enemy to use the freeze bomb on, just so you can get a hit on them. The Mancubus also makes a return, and it's sporting a different design from 2016. It's kind of wild how closely it resembles the original Mancubus design without it looking silly. But these boys are tanks, and they can dish it out as much as they can take it. From long range, they can use their cannons on you, and if you get too close, they'll use a flamethrower. Get even closer, and they'll fire their cannons to the ground and coat the area in napalm, which does a alarming amount of damage, so don't do it. Good news is you can destroy the cannons with certain weapons, which weakens its abilities. And their large size also makes them an easy target, and the rocket launcher is just a great counter to them. The game also decides to introduce everyone's favorite enemy, the Lost Souls. I kind of forget they're in this game, and that's a good thing because the Lost Souls in every other Doom game are annoying. While we're doing all that, we're slowly getting closer to the next Hell Priest. D. Garanik here does that thing I love in games. He talks mad shit to you, and he's talking about how, you can't stop him, how his creations will defeat you. And I just gotta say, do you want to put money on that? You do have to do some light puzzles at points, and you get the rocket launcher and the super shotgun. The rocket launcher here, despite sporting a very different design, and an awesome one at that, feels very similar to the 2016 version. It has a lock-on burst just like it did in the last game, and the mid-air detonation mod. Both are extremely useful and satisfying to use. You can use the rocket launcher to destroy any weak points too, which is nice. The only thing that is a little bit weird to me is the remote detonation doesn't do much damage. At least not as much as it did in 2016. But it causes enemies caught in the blast to falter, so that's nice. I don't really have much to say about it because it's a rocket launcher, it kind of just speaks for itself. How you get the super shotgun though is really cool because you activate a machine that transfers your mind into a revenant. And yes, you get to control a revenant and fight in an arena. It's a pretty novel and fun but really short section. And it ends with the revenant retrieving the shotgun and you switching back to a normal body. And you can choose to either spare the revenant or kill it. It's up to you. There's no consequence for the reward. You won't see a revenant will remember that piece of text on the screen or anything like that. It's just a fun little thing you can do. But let's talk about the super shotgun. Oh man, the super shotgun. It fucks. That's really all I have to say about it. It does a stupid amount of damage, and it's great in quick swapping combos we're dealing with a certain bastard that I'll talk about later. But the main reason why this gun is my favorite is its one and only mod, and it's the only thing it needs. The meat hook. It fires a grapple hook that pulls you towards your target and puts you in perfect super shotgun range. It's perfection, chef's kiss, what else can I say about it? It's peak. Its mastery upgrade has the hook be lit on fire. If having a grapple hook on your double barrel shotgun wasn't wicked enough for you. And did I also mention it makes enemies drop armor if you kill them while using the burning meat hook? Yeah, it does that. It's stupid fun. That's all I can say about it. But we continue through the cultist base and eventually we end up on a train and it takes us to another section of the base and closer to the Hell Priest and to the first boss of the game. So this mission has more platforming and demon killing and introduces a fan favorite, the Pinky. They work exactly how they did in the last game, but with your increased mobility, they're a lot easier to deal with, especially if you use the Blood Punch on them, because the Blood Punch one-shots them regardless of where you hit them, even if you hit the armored face. One noteworthy thing in this area is you see the boss of the area being put together as you're walking around. Yeah, this is D. Garanic's weapon to try and stop us, called the Doom Hunter. Creative name, I know. Unfortunately for Garanik, some assembly required. It is kind of neat watching this thing get assembled as we progress through the level, but we'll worry about him later. Because we're introduced to another demon called the Carcass, and I swear this enemy exists just to ruin your flow. Its main ability is projecting shields, and I swear the AI knows when to put one just to fuck you over. Because it'll put one right in front of you when you're in the middle of flying through the air, or when you're trying to rush in and glory kill an enemy. They're not hard to kill, and you can use a plasma rifle to overload their shields, but they're just annoying. On top of that, we run into another new demon called the Prowler. Okay, well the Prowler is new if you didn't play Doom 2016's multiplayer, because it was a playable demon there. It has the ability to teleport around the arena, which makes it annoying as hell to track down. And it likes to teleport behind you and attack you while you're busy dealing with anything else. They fight pretty similar to the imps outside of the teleporting thing, and they like to chuck these purple, I guess they're fireballs at you, and they'll scratch you if you get too close to them. You can fight them earlier if you go through the Slayer Gate in the previous level, which you need to go through those if you want to unlock the Unmaker, even though I don't think the Unmaker is really that good of a weapon. After some light platforming and some demon encounters, you'll come face to face with the full Doom Hunter.
I thought you would appreciate the sentry I chose. The great Argadon hunters from the Telos realm, though long thought to be extinct, created to hunt only the Slayer and his night sentinels during the unholy crusades. Some improvements on their design have been made. Enjoy what is undoubtedly my finest work.
This thing is a two-staged demon, and it's basically a hover tank with a demon fused to it. The lower body, which the wiki calls a barge, has missile pods, and on his arm he also has a cannon that he can pressure you with from range. Probably don't need to say this, but getting close to him is a really bad idea, thanks to that twin chainsaw arm. I kinda wish we could rip that off and use it as like an upgrade to our chainsaw, but nah. He actually hits hard though, and if you aren't moving around enough, or if he does manage to corner you, he's gonna mess you up. Oh, and did I mention the barge also gives him a shield? You can use a plasma rifle to overload the shield and then you can damage him for a while until it comes back. But you can also ignore the shield and just shoot the barge, making up his lower body. The best weapon to damage him is the rocket launcher, and I would say use the lock-on mod because it makes quick work of him. Eventually you'll do enough damage to cripple the barge so he has to separate from it. He becomes more mobile, but he loses access to his missiles and his shield, which does make him easier to kill. But he also becomes more aggressive, and he'll also try to chase you down. He also can dodge more too. Pretty sure boss fight, but overall it's a fun enemy. Oh, wait, what do you mean the fight's not over? I killed him.
We are not done yet.
Yeah, you have to fight two of them at the same time. Don't worry, this isn't the foreskin duo from Elden Ring. Yes, I'm still salty that they made that fight mandatory. Pre-DLC, that is one of the most obnoxious fights in the game as far as I'm concerned. But this ain't an Elden Ring video, that might be a thing later, I have no idea. The arena is big enough that I really have to deal with both hunters at the same time, and I can usually just focus down one of them. After you defeat both, you get to kill the second Hell Priest.
The beast, does he not seek enhanced power? Gifts to aid him in his noble conquest, perhaps in return for my...
Two down, one more to go. The con maker again calls us up asking us to please stop and just let her sacrifice the humans. And you know what? Let me think about that.
How about no?
Okay, to be fair, she did hide the last priest somewhere that the Celestial Locator can't find. In the meantime though, Vega has finished making the ballista, which I think is one of the strongest weapons in the game. The ballista functions similar to the Gauss cannon in the last game, despite it looking completely different. You might not think they're the same until you shoot it. It's one of the most high damage dealing weapons in the game outside of the BFG, and maybe the Unmaker. And it makes quick work of the larger demons. It also can destroy enemy weak points if you target them. But the goodness doesn't stop there. Its Destroyer Blade mod is similar to the Gauss Cannon Siege mode in 2016, but instead of firing a single beam that hits only the enemy standing near it or the enemy that you directly target with it or if there's anything behind it, this thing fires a wide beam that just slices apart anything it comes in contact with, usually dicing them in half, and it's just really satisfying to use. You do suffer a movement penalty while it's charging, but unlike the microwave beam that does something similar, the Destroyer Blade does way more damage, so I'm gonna give it the pass. Its other alt fire is the Arbalest. It's also a charge shot, but it's quicker, it's single targeting, it clings to your target when you hit them with it, and it's a delayed explosion. I've heard it does more damage to flying enemies, and that's also a nice bonus. It also has a zoom, so it makes it useful for hitting targets that are further away. It's satisfying to use, but I do prefer the Destroyer Blade, but you can't go wrong with either one. And the Ballista is very useful for a specific enemy that to this day I still dislike, and just find a chore to fight. But using this and a quick swap combo with the super shotgun makes that enemy die a lot faster, which is great. But with the ballista, we're off to kill the super gore nest, which is, it's the largest nest on Earth, and this helps demons just flood other worlds and just keep invading, basically. So if we take that out, their biggest source of reinforcements go away, which should make fighting the demons off a lot easier. And this is also my favorite level in the game. This level may look familiar to you if you remember some of the early gameplay footage, and visually speaking, it's a really awesome stage with all the demon corruption infesting the city. And I feel like if this level was in Doom 2016, they would really play up the horror vibe of that with all the all the just disgusting organic growth everywhere. It's like a cancer or something. But our mission is simple. We need to gain access to the heart of the nest, but to do that we have to collect 3 keys. A blue key, a yellow key, and a red key. Huh, that sounds like classic Doom, doesn't it? This level has a lot going for it, including a brand new enemy called the Dread Knight. Take a Hell Knight, give it a metal skull face, and strap some energy blades to its arms, and give it the ability to fire energy slashes at you. Yeah, that's basically the Dread Knight. They're mostly the same as the normal Hell Knight, except they just go Wolverine mode on you, and they have more reach. And their ground slam attack now coats the area in an energy of some kind that damages you. The melee attacks are also wider, so it's a little more difficult to dodge them. They follow the same crash out tactic that the Hell Knight does, which is bum rush you with zero understanding of the concept of self-preservation. They sort of act like a mini version of the new Barons of Hell that we'll be seeing later. But that's not the only new thing the game throws at us. At one point you get teleported into this giant, fleshy tumor room, that's what I'm gonna call it, and you encounter the buff totem. It's not an enemy, but what it does is it buffs any demons in the area, makes them faster and stronger. And if you think that's bad enough, it gets worse because the totem will constantly spawn demons in, and these demons spawn in with the buff, and they'll keep doing this until you destroy the totem. So that should be your highest priority. If you destroy the totem, the demons lose their buffs, and they lose their permanent reinforcements. The game loves to hide the totem somewhere in the arena, so you gotta go track it down, but the good news is, the spawn points don't randomize, so they're always gonna stay spawning in the same fixed location, which is nice. But this level I think is the most varied in terms of different arenas, and there's a decent amount of platforming here. There's also some hazards to keep in mind like lava, and radiation pools that require a radiation suit if you want to safely walk on them without taking damage. Yeah, that sounds like classic Doom, doesn't it? And just like an older Doom level, as you pick up the keys, you unlock more areas in the level, and eventually you get to the heart of the nest. It's built right on top of this giant generator thing. I'm not entirely sure what this was for, but if we were to turn the generator on, the heart would explode. To do that, we gotta flip 2 switches to power the main generator, and the issue is one of the switches is inaccessible right now, unless we have the other 2 keys. Oh, and while we're down here fidgeting with the generator, we get another new toy to play with. The chain gun. The chain gun, despite having a different design, feels very similar to the one in Doom 2016. Its base fire is, well, what you'd expect from a chain gun, although it appears to be shooting energy-infused bullets. The mods are an energy shield that blocks damage from enemies for a certain amount of time, or I think if it takes a certain amount of damage, it wears off. It's really useful either way. And you can also dash while the shield is up to bash enemies with it. In certain situations, this thing is kind of busted. And it absolutely shreds Hell Knights and Dread Knights because you can just stand there and just spam the base fire while their melee attacks do nothing. The other mod, which I wish was better because it visually looks cool, is the mobile turret mod. While yes, it does give you extra firepower, it doesn't feel like that much of an upgrade from the normal fire, and you burn ammo even faster. And I wish this mod was better because I just like the aesthetic of it, and having a chain gun that you can pull apart and expand to multiple mini chain guns is just awesome. But I just think the shield mod is way more useful. But after we get all the keys and flip the 2 switches, we can give the Super Gore Nest one hell of a heartburn, literally. But we've got a few minutes to get the hell out of there because the place is gonna go boom. And the demons, they don't want us to leave. I just blitz past them and it's really not that difficult. But once we're safely at the exit, we destroyed the largest demon nest on Earth. So at least there'll be less demons pouring in. But Vega reminds us that, yeah, the 3rd Hell Priest is still alive, and until he's dead, Hell is still gonna consume Earth no matter what we do. But we still don't have any idea of where he is. Vega suggests we go find Samuel Hayden, and that he might know where the last priest is. You know, the guy who double-crossed us at the end of the last game. Why Vega thinks he knows where the last priest is, I have no idea. But we're off to the Ark Complex. I don't really have much to say about this level aside from whoever designed this really loves plastering purple slime everywhere, as the central street is just flooded with it. Yeah, we're gonna need a little bit of a cleanup on IO Ark Complex. We're gonna need a mop and a bucket, and you know what? Make that several. You're gonna spend most of the level getting to these 2 turrets of fire on these giant tentacles blocking the door to the Ark Complex. This is another Earth level, but this one feels less consumed by the demons. It's like we arrived a few days late to Ark's last stand, and it's pretty obvious they've already lost. We end up fighting through the city streets, through buildings and even into the sewers at one point. And one thing I noticed is this level is a little more generous with the power-ups, because for most of the game and even after this, they're pretty stingy with them. Maybe it's because the power-ups in this game feel really broken. But while we're here, we're introduced to a new enemy, the Cyber Mancubus. It's like the normal one, but if it's strapped an SUV's worth of armor to itself. And then some. You can't destroy his cannons, and they fire this green energy that I think does more damage than the normal Mancubus. With all that armor on, it can tank a lot more damage. But the good news is you can break the armor with a single blood punch, so good idea to save it for that. But eventually we end up making it to Hayden, and mans ain't looking too good.
Dr. Hayden's office laboratory is located at the top of this facility.
Attention, emergency protocols have been activated. Please exit the facility now.
My God, Dr. Hayden was convinced that you would come here for this eventually. Can I just say that it is an honor for me personally to meet you?
Attention, emergency protocols have been activated. Please exit the facility now.
We don't know how to access his main cortex. It's all alien. We couldn't figure it out. We have to prepare for his careful extraction. We were given specific orders.
His life signal is barely readable.
Warning, demonic presence threat level 5 entering main laboratory.
Opening the portal now.
You were never one of us. You were nothing but a usurper, a false idol. My eyes have been opened. Let me help you to see, Slayer.
Oh yeah, he's here. Meet the Marauder. Easily one of the most polarizing monsters in this game. When this came out, a lot of people hated him, and even now I still think he's pretty polarizing, though I think opinions have mellowed on him a bit. When I first played this game, I fucking hated the Marauder. But 5 years later, and having time to think about it, I still fucking hate him. I find the Marauder annoying because of how you have to fight him. If you try to shoot him, he'll just block everything you do with his shield. If you keep shooting or you ignore him for too long, he'll just summon a spirit wolf to chase you down, and it'll gnaw at your ankles, and it actually does a lot of damage. If you get too close, you'll be eating a shotgun blast to the face. He also likes to throw these energy axe heads at you from certain ranges too. What you have to do is you have to wait for him to flash green and then shoot him, which stuns him and allows you to get more hits in. The problem is you have to bait this attack out by staying a certain distance from him and waiting for him to do it and then shoot him. He's constantly running at you, so likely he'll end up entering the range where his AI will decide to do the big swing you can counter. But I still just don't find it fun, even when you understand how to deal with them. Because to me, the entire game is about feeling fast and aggressive, and this guy forces you not to do that. And I felt like I'm playing footsies in a fighting game, trying to get in the right position to bait him into doing the attack I need him to do. And if there's other demons around, which is something the game will do to you later on, because the Marauders become semi-regular enemies, you're probably going to take damage from the other demons while you're trying to focus down the Marauder, or you're going to have to risk ignoring him and taking damage from him while you're trying to deal with everything else. And I know what some of you are thinking.
Skill issue.
Is it a skill issue? Sure, maybe. I can kill him though, especially if I use the quick swap combo of the super shotgun and ballista. If you cycle through those weapons fast enough, you can cancel out of reloading, so you can get more damage in per loop, and you can deal with them in a short amount of time. And yes, this does mean that the fight is over with faster, but that doesn't make him less annoying in my opinion. All it does is just ease the tedium and just make me not have to engage with it as much as I would if I didn't know about the quick swap combo. And they have, I think, nerfed the Marauders since launch in response to a lot of people not liking them, which is probably why I think opinions have mellowed on them a bit. But just as a concept from base level, I just don't like them. Again, it's a personal taste thing. Some people love them, some people hate them, some people are fine with them. I just hate the Marauder and find his gameplay really annoying and unfun. But I will say he has a cool design though, and the one that talks to you in the cutscene has a cool voice. That's about it. But thank you for coming to my TED Talk on why I hate the Marauder. There's one other enemy that I find more annoying than the Marauder, but that's gotta wait until we get to DLC. Anyway, we got Hayden, and he serves as a walking, can't really call him a walking lore dump since the dude's just an upper body and a head. A floating lore dump that constantly spouts off information to us, and he immediately tells us how to get to the final Hell Priest. They're on Sentinel Prime, and the only way to get there is going through a slipgate in a city that is literally in the core of Mars called Habeth. So we have to get into the core of Mars. That's a tall order, but fortunately the Doomslayer has a solution to that.
The final priest is hiding in Sentinel Prime. The Khan Maker does not want him to be easily found. The only functional slipgate to Sentinel Prime is in the core of Mars, in the lost city of Habeth. I have marked its location for you, but getting there will take time. There is no easy way to access the core of Mars.
There are no known pathways that lead there, Dr. Hayden.
The BFG 10,000, designed by Dr. Samuel Hayden as part of the Anti-Demonic Defense Grid.
I understand. Searching the coordinates to the BFG 10,000 now.
You can't just shoot a hole into the surface of Mars.
Doomslayer be like, hold my super shotgun. This level starts off with a really funny interaction with some humans, and you may also recognize this from one of the trailers. Although the part where the Doomslayer jacks the guy's plasma rifle makes less sense now since we've had one since the second level, but hey, it's still a funny bit.
Here.
We also run into a new demon, the Baron of Hell. You may notice that the Barons in this game, they're looking a little different. I definitely don't remember them having fire blades last time, or any other time. Well, the Codex mentions these Barons living in a different region and evolving this way. They fight pretty similar to how they did in 2016, but they have more reach because of those blades. And they can dish it out and also take it. We also run to the Pain Elemental, and they do not act like how they did in Classic Doom, and that's a good thing because when you talk about Classic Doom Pain Elemental, that name is beyond fitting. In this game though, they're surprisingly tanky, and while they will spit out lost souls, they don't stay around as new enemies. Now it just uses them as projectiles to throw at you, and it'll also have them hover around it to protect itself from damage. The rocket launcher and the ballista are your friends here. This level decides to start making the Doom Hunters regular enemies, and at first I wasn't quite sure how I feel about that, and I always feel mixed on bosses being reused as normal enemies, but they're still fun to fight, so it's not really a big deal. I guess D. Granick has Demon Amazon Prime, and someone at the Cultist base was just shipping these things out to every other level in the game. But like I said, they're still fun to fight, so it's not really a big deal. This level is gorgeous, and we haven't even blasted a hole in Mars yet. The BFG 10K firing off in the background while you rip through demons is a nice set piece. You then platform your way into the BFG 10,000, and inside of it, you find out that it's being powered by a BFG 9000. Yeah, we're just gonna borrow the BFG 10,000, you know, just to blast a hole in Mars, you know, no, not a big deal, right?
Disable the safety protocols? self-destruct. We should move ahead.
Oh, you thought I was bullshitting about punching a hole in Mars? Yeah, the whole layout of the level changes and we platform our way to the Mars core. We even launch ourselves out of a cannon at one point. Yeah, that happens.
The ion catapult is designed to use only approved UAC ammunition. Override loading sequence. Fire. 3, 2, 1.
Oh, and I should mention we finally have the BFG. We just sort of borrowed it when we fired the BFG 10K. I'm sure they won't mind. I think they have bigger problems to worry about. I don't even want to know what the consequences would be of blasting a hole like that into Mars. I bet you Neil deGrasse Tyson is having an aneurysm about that. But the BFG... yeah, it's the BFG. If you know, you know, especially if you played Doom 2016. There's a reason why you can't get ammo for this thing from chainsaw kills, because if you could, it would absolutely break the game. I mean, just look at it. Yeah, there's a reason why you have a very limited ammo pool for it, because it slaps. Any large area or open area, it's a guaranteed slaughterfest with this weapon. And it's so much fun to use too. But it does suffer from, and this is a me problem, it suffers from what I call Magnum syndrome. What I mean by that is, it's a super powerful weapon, but because its ammo so limited, you almost don't want to use it. And then when you're in a situation where you should use it, you forget you have it. I have this problem with Magnums in Resident Evil, hence the name. Like seriously, unless I'm doing something really difficult in a Resident Evil game, I'll have a Magnum and then forget I even have it until after it would make sense to use it. But the only real problem I would say the BFG has, and this might vary depending on who you are, but it doesn't work well on Marauders. They're actually resistant to it. And in my opinion, that defeats the whole purpose of having a super weapon with mega limited ammo, because you're supposed to, you know, save the ammo to kill the things that you really don't want to deal with, or that you can't, and that's just because you're in a pinch. I had to look it up just to make sure it was even possible, and it turns out you can actually kill a Marauder with the BFG, at least according to the wiki. You just have to hit them directly with it while they're stunned, which, I mean, that's doable. I mean, it's not impossible or anything super hard, but I just kind of wish it just killed them outright if you fired it regardless. But whatever, back to the level. So eventually we do make it to the city of Hebeth. We aren't here for very long, but we do get an awesome arena that's in the ruins, and there's lava, and I mean, just look at it. I don't really have much else to say about it. After that, it's onward to Sentinel Prime. This level is interesting because it's basically a walk up to a boss fight with some story bits and some cutscenes here that confirms that the Doomslayer is the Doom Marine from the classic games. If you're wondering how he ends up here, it's because in Doom 64, when he defeated the Mother Demon, he decided he's just gonna stay in hell and fight the demons, prevent another invasion. Shenanigans happened, I guess, and he somehow crossed dimensions and ended up in this reality. The Con Maker shows up again, and again demonstrates why she's a dumb villain. Rather than teleporting the last priest away, or appearing and fighting us to stop us from killing the priest, since she's supposedly invincible outside of her own realm or whatever, she pleads with us, promising to give us back what we lost. And initially I thought she was talking about Doomguy's pet rabbit, Daisy, but I've seen other people interpret it as she's saying that, oh, I can send you back to your dimension. Either way, she has to know trying to bargain with this guy isn't gonna work, right? Like, you do realize this guy has a one-track mind and just wants to kill all demons, right? Come on. Yeah, that works about as well as you'd expect. Also, and this is a complete side note, I'm going back to my footage and I didn't notice this until now when I was writing the script. There's this one Maker Angel looking thing here that looks really cool, and I kind of wish it was an enemy we could fight, but Oh no, oh well, maybe they'll do that when they decide to make a sequel to Eternal, since Dark Age is a prequel. But when you do get to the priest in this arena, before we can kill him, we have to fight the gladiator, who is, to this day, I think he still might be my favorite boss in the game. Sammer from the first DLC might dethrone him, but I have to see once I've replayed the DLC again. But there's one really simple reason why this boss is so high up on the list for me. It's the music. Remember how I said Mick Gordon did that whole metal choir thing with the soundtrack? Yeah, it really comes into play right here. If you're wondering what Kar and Took means, it translates to rip and tear in a Sentinel language, which is what the Doom guy kept saying when he arrived and when he was thrown into the arena. Some way, somehow, people figured out what that meant in their language and they just started like chanting it as like a cheer for him. So the music you're hearing during this fight, it's not a theme for the gladiator, it's a theme for you. It's almost like you are the boss fight here. And it's just, I mean, for one, it sounds awesome and it just feels awesome. And I'm not gonna lie, I find myself tapping my foot in sync with the chant whenever I play or listen to this. Great music to get you pumped up for anything. The other thing I like is he sort of looks like the classic Hell Knight from Doom 2, which is a neat touch. And also the fact that we are fighting him in a Coliseum, and the Codex mentions how the Coliseum is a big deal for like Sentinel culture. So the whole idea to me is just really cool. Okay, but enough gushing about the soundtrack and the visuals. What about the actual fight though? The Gladiator has two phases. The first one, he's a little more passive and he uses his shield. Similar to the Marauder, but way less annoying in my opinion. When you see the green flash, shoot him and you'll be able to do more damage and make him vulnerable to attack. If you do enough damage, he actually becomes stunned for a second and you can do a quick melee hit on him. He will spawn other demons into the arena to distract you and for ammo refills, and he can send out energy blasts from his shield and lunge with that weird, I don't know what to call this thing, it's kind of like a flail. I'm just gonna call it a flail, and it has a stupid amount of reach because it can hit you from across the arena, and he can hit you with it pretty fast too. But after you deplete his first health bar, you destroy his shield, and then he gets more aggressive by pulling out a second flail. You can now spin one of them in front of him like a helicopter blade to deflect projectiles back at you when he's not in the middle of an attack. Now he attacks a lot more frequently, but you still sort of have to wait for the green flash, but on top of that, he has this one move where he raises these energy walls to the sides of you, and it basically boxes you in, and then he sends out these energy waves of different heights that you have to dodge, and while he's doing this attack, you can just shoot him. It doesn't feel like a waiting game, which is great. But he will end this attack with a bum rush, which you can dodge by dashing out of the way, and it leaves him stunned for a second, which gives you more time to hit him. Overall, really fun fight. After you kill him, you get to kill the priest. The guards here, they don't take too kindly to you doing that, so we just nope the hell out of there. And the con maker, she's a little angry, and decides to revoke our power privileges in the Fortress of Doom. I guess Doomslayer wasn't paying his electrical bill. But then she does the stupidest thing she could possibly do. She tells us exactly what her next move is, which is to resurrect the Icon of Sin and have it consume Earth. Okay, so I've been saying constantly throughout the video that the Con Maker is a pretty stupid villain, and it's not a bit. This is one of the reasons why. First of all, she demonstrated in the first level that she can teleport the Hell Priest away from us. Vega stated that outside of URDAK, she is indestructible.
The Con Maker is present at this gathering, but when outside of her domain, she is by all accounts indestructible.
Implying that if she were to fight us anywhere but URDAK, we wouldn't be able to fight her, and we would have to back off or she would just kill us. And yet she spends most of the game telling us off for killing a Hell Priest, but not doing much to actually stop us once we find them. Now maybe when they say she's indestructible, maybe it's more like she's intangible, where it's like she can't attack you and you can't attack her kind of thing. But like they don't clarify that. So I don't know what they mean by that, and it's not demonstrated or explained. But that aside, then you mean to tell me she could have deactivated the Fortress of Doom altogether because it's a maker design whenever she damn well pleased? So question, why did you do that after we killed the first Hell Priest? Like, definitely by the second one, you should have probably been able to do that, right? And before someone says it in the comments, yes, I get that she's meant to be arrogant, which could explain some of the stupidity here and why she decides to tell us that she's gonna resurrect the Icon of Sin. I also think it's just her way of saying fuck you for not, just letting it happen. The con maker has to know that Doom Guy is relentless. There's no stopping him unless you're gonna kill him, which, yeah, good luck with that. But telling him your entire plan is really stupid, because if the off chance he did escape the fortress, because it's not like you rigged it to blow up or something and in a way where it's like, yeah, he's dead. But shutting off the power to the fortress is just putting him in timeout, essentially. And because you told him to plan, if he did figure out a way to either get the fortress running again or escape it, he now knows what you're gonna do and has time to prep for it, potentially. Apparently, in this universe, the Icon of Sin is what's called a Titan, and the only way to kill a Titan is with a Crucible. So you have to go retrieve and repair the one the Doomslayer used years ago by going to a place called NABAD. And if you're wondering how we still have the fortress, it's because Doomslayer was smart and took the demonic crucible from 2016, and apparently that can be used to power the fortress. So yeah, the con maker really thought she was cooking with that, but she was not. But on to NABAD. Okay, so NABAD is this ruined city that seems like, is this what the Doomslayer actually lorded over this place? And probably after he killed the Titan that's currently sitting on part of the city. But this is where he became the Doomslayer and where the whole legend of that started. And visually, it's very cool, and I was at first a little worried it was going to be too similar to EXULTIA or Sentinel Prime, but it feels different enough. Maybe that's because it's more combat heavy than those two. But here we're introduced to the Archvile, and thank fuck he is less annoying than he is in Classic Doom. He actually is more cowardly here and likes to hide in the arena and create fire shields in front of him. And he also likes to spawn in new demons that have the same buffs they would if they were hit with a buff totem. Good news is the summoning takes time, so you can interrupt him. But he also likes to teleport across the map, and he can send out fire waves and create pools of fire under you to damage you, so watch out for that. Overall, he's not a super nightmarish enemy to deal with, thankfully. Just try to kill him before he spawns any helpers, which might be easier said than done when he's teleporting around the map and just in general hiding from you. You'll be also running into the Marauder again as a normal enemy several times, which, that's nice. As you make your way through the level, you retrieve the Crucible, but you gotta break the blade off so it stays embedded in the Titan you killed years ago. Because apparently if you remove it, the Titan will just revive again. Which I think is kind of interesting. And I'm sure in Doom the Dark Ages you end up fighting this thing at some point. If I end up being horribly wrong about that when Doom the Dark Ages comes out, and it likely will be before this video is even remotely done, don't tell me in the comments. Because I'm trying to go into that game as blind as I can. But back to this game. So in order to repair the Crucible, we have to fight our way to a hidden forge under the throne room. And once we do that, we're dropped to an arena where we can try out the Crucible, which is something that I've been excited about since they showed it in one of the trailers. But yeah, the Crucible is just the most metal-looking energy sword I think I've seen in a while. And it's a one-hit kill weapon on enemies besides the Marauder if they have their shield up, or a Doom Hunter, because it takes 2 swings to kill one, because the first phase will just damage the tank body, and then the second phase will actually kill it. Like the BFG, it's got a limited ammo pool, which feels kind of weird to say considering it's a sword. Maybe I should call it charges. My biggest problem with the Crucible is A, how late you get it in the game, and B, the limited charges and how rare they are to find. It sort of feels like an upgrade to the chainsaw from Doom 2016, but it doesn't cause enemies to spawn a bunch of health and ammo for you when you kill them with it. And you don't need more fuel for larger demons. Despite how little you get to use it, it's still fun to just walk around swinging an energy blade with a look as badass as this. But sadly, this is the most you'll be using it because for the next few levels, there aren't nearly as many charges for it. But after this, we go back to the fortress to gear up for the final 4 levels, because once we go through these levels, we're not coming back here until the end of the game. If you got all the Slayer keys, you can unlock the Unmaker now. Might as well talk about it since we're here. Okay, this is the one weapon in the game that I think kind of sucks. I hate to say it, but I don't like the Unmaker. It has way too much working against it. For one, you can only unlock it by collecting special keys, And to get those keys, you have to unlock the secret arenas in certain levels, which are locked behind Slayer gates, which you need keys to unlock the gates. Don't worry, the keys usually aren't that far off from where the gate is, so it's not that much of a chore, as I'm just figuring it out, it's usually kind of simple. But the Slayer Gate arenas can be a bit tough, but at the end, you do get the key, and you need all of them to unlock the Unmaker and the Fortress of Doom. And the problem is, you only get all of these keys and the Unmaker before you head to NEKRAVOL. So you only get to use it for the last 4 levels of the game. Now you think a weapon this powerful, it would just break the game, right? No. The damage output, it's not great. It still has a bit of a punch to it, but when you compare it to the BFG, which is something you've had for way longer, and it has way more utility, it just doesn't cut it, I'm sorry. And it just doesn't feel that powerful how much work you put in. And even worse, it shares ammo with the BFG. It does consume less ammo per shot, but the fact that it even shares ammo with it, which is the objectively better weapon, in terms of damage and usefulness, it makes me never want to use the Unmaker unless I have the infinite ammo cheat on. And even then, it's just kind of it's fine, I guess. You're probably not going to see me use it that much, which is a shame, because the fully upgraded Unmaker in Doom 64 is stupidly powerful. But anyway, on to NEKRAVOL Part 1. Yeah, this is a 2-parter. Remember when I said back in the beginning of this video that a lot of this game's visuals feel like something off of a metal album cover? NEKRAVOL is a prime example of that because you can't get much more metal than this. I mean, just look at the starting area. It's nightmarishly beautiful, I love it. But anyway, our objective is to climb the tower and sabotage the Argent energy production here, which is gonna launch us into URDAK so we can confront the Conmaker and stop her from resurrecting the Icon of Sin. That's a little easier said than done because the demons are not gonna let us do that without a fight. We even run to the last new enemy here, assuming you didn't do the Slayer Gates, because if you did, you've encountered it way earlier. Meet the Tyrant. No, not the one from Resident Evil. This one is basically the Cyber Demon, but with a design closer to the one from the original game. They are the biggest normal demon in the base game, and they can take a pounding. Despite them being pretty slow, they can hit like a truck, and their ability to fire missiles and use tracking lasers for the arm cannon to lock onto you, they're going to force you to move around. You're not going to be able to just stand still and shoot them. And if you make the mistake of coming in close, they can make an energy blade and slice you with it, or they can stomp the ground and create an explosion to keep you away. They're a pretty fun enemy to slowly whittle down. But moving on, we end up hopping into a cage before being brought before a demon named Calibos. Calibos is it's a giant brain, and it's immobile and can't attack you. What it does is it decides if your soul is to be discarded or tortured, so it turns into Argent energy, which is what URDAK runs on, what humans were using in Doom 2016 to solve the energy crisis, and it's pretty core to the plot, let's just say that. But this thing has a bunch of turrets protecting it, and that's what it uses to attack you, and you have to destroy them to win this boss fight. Is it fair to even call this thing a boss fight? It's more of a hazard. But the turrets take turns attacking you at random, and you have to damage the turret that's attacking you. And while you're doing this, the platforms in the arena will rise and fall through the lava, so you have to keep that in mind. And as you destroy turrets, lesser demons will also spawn in, just to make this a little more chaotic. After the shield is destroyed, you punch it in, well, I would say face, but I don't think it has a face. So let's just say you give it CTE from hell, and you can proceed to the rest of the level. Part of me wonders if Calibos was supposed to be a more fleshed out fight at some point, but was scrapped due to, development constraints or something. I don't know, I don't think I've seen anyone ever mention that, it just feels that way to me. You'll be doing a lot of platforming, getting up the tower, and you'll be taking advantage of the traps in here that you can trigger by shooting them. Overall, pretty fun level. Again, just like the visuals, and the Calibos fight was alright. But moving on to part 2. In part 2, we continue to climb this tower while Hayden explains that this place turns the suffering of tortured souls into energy that, like I said, URDAK uses to power itself, which is why the Conmaker really wants to stop us from stopping the Hell invasion. Also, as a byproduct of this, the body of someone that's been turned into Argent energy becomes a demon. Yeah, we're shutting this operation down. We just gotta fight through a ton of demons first and keep climbing up to the top. A lot of this level is combat and platforming, kind of like part 1. After a pretty big battle at the top of the tower, we drop part of it into the well of energy, and we then climb into that to send us flying up to a portal that will lead us into URDAK. First thing I will say about URDAK is, damn, this place is beautiful. The art department was cooking today. And the whole place, like I said, is powered by Argent energy, and it's a very technological, mechanical looking world. You may notice that there's no demons for you to fight here yet. That's because no demons can step foot into URDAK, and no makers can step foot into hell. Anyway, we quickly catch up to the con maker, and again, I just have to lay into her stupidity here because I ain't even gonna lie to y'all, this cutscene makes her look really dumb. Let's just play it.
Cannot stop the procession. We will not be able to control it! No!
First of all, she just stands there when you arrive and doesn't do anything to blast you away or anything or stop you. Second, you telegraph so hard that you're about to stab the heart that I think even Helen Keller could see it coming.
We will not be able to control it! No!
Does a con maker do anything to stop you besides telling you to stop? Which, let me check the record for that. Has that worked at all since the start of this game? Oh yeah, that's a no. So you stab the heart, and without it, the icon of sin goes berserk and decides to go to Earth anyway. Because of the icon being awoken in URDAK, the seal is broken, which means demons can now invade. And they do. So now we have to fight our way through URDAK to reactivate a portal to get us back to Earth before the icon kills everybody. Or what's left of Earth anyway. We run into a new enemy here, the Maker Drone. These guys are fodder enemies, but with a twist. They take way less damage if you shoot them in the body, but if you land a headshot with the precision bolt or the ballista, they die instantly and drop a ton of ammo and health. Not much of a challenge, but I guess they needed some URDAK representation on the enemy roster. Kinda wish it was that cool angel thing we saw on Sentinel Prime, but oh well. This is fine, I guess. While we're here, Vega interfaces with URDAK systems to help us get the portal online, and he realizes something. Vega is the godlike entity that used to rule URDAK called the Father. The Father has been missing for quite some time, that's putting it lightly. And the reason why URDAK is relying on Argent energy in the first place is because the Father left. Because if they don't use Argent energy, or he's not around, they suffer from a process of physical decay called transfiguration. When Father was around, they would simply die and be reborn, and, you know, problem solved, essentially. But since he left to go get some cigarettes and never came back, they've had to rely on Argent energy, and that's where all of our problems started. Vega is Father. Vega didn't know he was Father until he was connected to URDAK systems. And, yeah, Hayden is not human, which this game pretty much told you right before you met him in this one. And there's a lore reason why he's not human, but everybody thought he was, and then stuff. And I'm gonna be honest, I don't like that. I kind of wish they kept Hayden as a human. Well, okay, human mind in a robot body, but you know what I mean. Anyway, since we need Vega to operate the portal, I guess I should start calling him Father now. We have to leave him behind, but before we can enter the portal, the con maker decides she's finally had enough of our shit and decides to fight us. in her own realm where she's not invincible against a guy who was able to 1v1 Titans apparently. Yeah, this doesn't end well for her.
The Godmaker is near. She cannot let you leave this place alive. She is invulnerable when she has the orb within her chest. Once removed, her defenses will be down.
For millennia, we have survived. Made others sacrifice in the name of our prosperity, so that they may in turn find redemption. Who are you? A human, once a mortal, to defy our traditions.
The Godmaker is a boss. I'm just gonna say it is kind of forgettable. She flies around the arena and has 6 health bars, which may seem like a lot, but they deplete pretty fast. She has a barrier that you have to take down, and once the barrier is depleted, you get a fully charged blood punch and you have to use it on her to deplete her health bar. If you don't do this fast enough, she'll regenerate that bar. She attacks by firing blasts of light and spheres of purple lightning at you. She can also call down a laser from above that moves around the arena and it sets the ground on fire. This is probably her most annoying attack. She also can electrify parts of the arena, making them unsafe to walk on, so you gotta be mindful of where you stand, which is also kind of annoying, but not necessarily difficult in my opinion. She also summons these special versions of the Maker drones that are red and have a lot more health, but as you damage her, and this is something I think is neat, you see her mechanical body fall off and you see more of this, frankly, kind of Lovecraftian alien thing underneath. That's pretty damn cool. Anyway, with her dead and URDAK not having a good time right now, we still have a rampaging Icon of Sin to deal with, so we bounce. No, we don't immediately launch to an Icon of Sin fight, although I wouldn't mind that, to be honest with you. Instead, we have to hop from ruined buildings, fighting off some pretty tough waves of demons, while you see the Icon going through a leisurely stroll around the city. When I get to this point, I just kind of want to get to the boss fight, and I'm not even sure why that is, because the Icon of Sin isn't that good of a fight. The good news is, he's the best Icon of Sin fight in an official Doom game. Unfortunately, that doesn't make him a great boss fight.
Now, two Titans, as it was written.
He kind of feels like a giant stage hazard. What you have to do is you have to damage 8 parts of him while avoiding his attacks and dealing with the endless waves of demons he spawns. And the biggest issue I have with this fight is I feel like I spend more time dealing with them than the Icon himself, which is, I mean, it is accurate to how he is in Doom 2. At least in this game, he can actually attack you directly. That's something. But in his first phase, he's mostly stationary, and we focus on destroying his armor. He'll try to stop you by throwing out high damaging punches, attacking with fireballs, and he'll throw in some energy blast for good measure. The other problem I have with this fight is sometimes you have to wait for the animation to play for the part you damage to explode or take damage so you can keep attacking him, which isn't a big deal, but it is kind of like, wish there was a better way you could have done this. I will say though, the music is good, and again, the metal choir comes back, although this time it seems a lot more chaotic, and also it sounds a lot more evil too. Once all the armor is destroyed, it's on to phase 2, which is more of the same, except now he summons more powerful demons, and he gains some new attacks like laser beams, and he can summon meteors to fall in the arena. The strat for fighting him is the same, except now we're destroying parts of his body, and he also moves around the building you're fighting him on more to attack you from different angles, but it's not really that big of a deal. Like I said, most of your problem is going to be dealing with the demons he spawns in. But once you've destroyed all pieces of him, the Doomslayer ends it with the Crucible. So that was the main game, and you know what? It still kicks ass. I'd say the combat is still super fun, and I don't even think I'm that great at it, because I've seen people go absolutely nuts with all the quick swap combos, and there's just certain ones that work really well on certain demons and different situations. So the combat system definitely has some depth to it. The only thing that I would say I'm mixed about is the story, and that's due to just how much lore is thrown at you. And I remember I was talking this with a friend of mine at one point. We were talking about how it almost feels like there should have been another game in between these two. Because I know Doom 2016 did have a lot of lore, but it was kept mostly in the background to the codex. And the basis were you're the Doomslayer, some badass warrior dude that even the demons are afraid of, and they had to seal you away. But you've been awakened because UAC started experimenting with hell, and things got out of hand as they always do. And so one of the higher ups in the UAC woke you up to clean up the mess. And you go to work and you kill some demons and figure out how to stop the source of the invasion. And you close the portal only to get double-crossed by Hayden at the end of the game. And then he teleports you somewhere else, and I don't think that's ever been explained or shown. And at first I was thinking, when I initially beat the game, I thought that was going to be like maybe some DLC or something, but no. And then you get to this game, all of a sudden, hell is invading Earth, and the Doomslayer is back and has a giant fortress now. They throw a lot more fantastical stuff at you, and it doesn't really feel like they ease you into it, or at least not that well. And it doesn't bother me that much, but I do think it's a little bit jarring, especially if you didn't read any of the codex stuff in 2016 and just played it like a typical Doom game. And for people who didn't like read any of that stuff or wasn't like aware of it, or that aware of it, it was probably a little jarring going from 2016 to this. I remember people saying that they felt like they Warhammer 40k'd this game. And yeah, it does feel like they expanded the universe in these games a lot. And some of that lore wouldn't feel out of place in a Warhammer 40k game. And I've seen other people say that they feel like a lot of the different worlds and other like realms and stuff would fit Quake more, especially the first game. I can't say I disagree with that, especially because they mentioned Slipgates, which is tech from the Quake games. So I could see some people maybe being a little off-put by that or not liking the direction it went in, especially with the changes to the art style, where it got a lot more colorful instead of the more muted and gritty, and still kind of, I guess Doom 2016 still had a little bit of that horror element in it, where in Eternal I don't think is there. But that's not the thing that I think was the most polarizing for some people with this game. I think that was the combat system. Especially when you first play it after coming off of 2016, because it is different. Like, there is a lot of overlap, but there's some things that are noticeably different, especially with the whole ammo thing and the lowered ammo capacity. Because I remember when I first played the game, I initially didn't like that, but I think around the EXULTIA level is when I started to understand what the game wanted me to do. Now you had to play it, and I get that not everyone's gonna like that. But overall, it was one of my most anticipated games of 2020, and to this day, I still would put it as one of my favorite shooter games. Between the art style and the fast pace, and oh yeah, that music. I guess I have to talk about it at least a little bit. I don't know the full story of what happened between Bethesda and id and Mick Gordon, but from what I've gathered from other people who have done like videos talking about it, Mick was treated harshly, and it was so bad that he didn't come back for the DLC, and to my knowledge has not worked for Bethesda to score a video game ever since. And I will say his absence was felt with the DLC soundtrack. Although, to be fair, the DLC does have some good tracks. It's just not the same, you know? It'd be like having a Star Wars movie where you didn't have any of John Williams' music and you got, I don't know, Hans Zimmer to do the music. Like, I'm sure Hans Zimmer would make a score that's good. It just wouldn't be the same, you know? Maybe that's just me. But, like the name of the game, we aren't at the end yet because there's the DLC. And just looking at the length of this script and the length of my audio so far, the Ancient Gods Part 1 and 2 are going to have to get their own video. Just for the sake of getting this video out in a reasonable amount of time and my sanity, this is going to need its own video. And I just realized I haven't talked about the other game modes either. There's Battle Mode, a 2v1 where 2 players take control of demons and fight against the Slayer. I don't play this mode that much, but from the little bit that I did play, it's pretty challenging, but it's also pretty fun. I mostly played Doom for single player, so I wasn't like super into it, but it was fun. They added a horde mode after release. I think it was after the second DLC they did that. And it's really fun because it's not just waves of enemies. There's platforming challenges, there's high scores, there's special rounds. They try to do a lot to spice it up. And also, some of the levels of the base game got special versions called master levels, where they take the normal level and jack up the difficulty by changing around enemy spawns or throwing other curveballs at you, like putting parts of the map in dense fog so you can't see what's going on. And the whole point of it is to be a lot more challenging, but still fun. Oh, and there's now mod tools for the game. People have been modding the game and making new levels, including their own custom master levels. I haven't dabbled into mods or the mod tools because those tools would eat up a lot of space on my computer, and I don't really want to do that. But to wrap this up, does Doom Eternal hold up?
Your strength will be their shield, and your will their sword. You remain unbroken, for your fight is eternal.
Hell yeah. Pun intended. Hey, if you made it all the way to the end of this video, I just wanted to say thank you. Because this was, if you couldn't tell by the audio, this was meant to come out right around the time Doom the Dark Ages was released. But I ran into some problems that prevented that. One of them being Audacity corrupting like 45 minutes of audio, meaning I had to record it again and then combine it with the parts that weren't messed up, and that took a while. Also, I lost some of the Doom footage that I recorded, so I had to basically play through half the game again to re-record it. But as stated in the intro bit of this video, the plan is to review all the main Doom games, but I intend to review other stuff too, and may mix that in along the way just to give myself some other stuff to talk about and not burn myself out on Doom. But I'll keep you guys posted on that. I'm already working on the part for Ancient Gods, which will hopefully be a lot shorter so I can get that out to you way faster than this one. But if you like this video, please consider leaving a like, commenting, and subscribing. I'm told asking people to do that makes them more likely to do it, so let's see if that's true. Also, consider checking out my books. The links are in the description, and I might put them in the pinned comment. Thanks, you guys.